And we are live streaming. I almost said on a Tuesday, but it's Monday. Happy Monday. We're gonna wait for some folks to enter into the chat. This was a little bit last minute. I didn't announce I was doing this dietitian live till last minute. I don't normally do them on Mondays, but I missed it yesterday. What's the mic doing? So if you are here, say hello in the chat box. Let me know if the sound is okay on your end, if things are matching up, if you can hear me clearly enough, all those good things. Hi, Heather Joe 75, Renata Ramanak. Thanks for joining me, ladies. Not sure how Monday night works for everyone. I had been doing my Sunday lives at 5 p.m. every week, but I didn't the past 2 weeks because of the Buffbunny collection launch, which I know isn't for everyone, but it's a lot of work, so something has to drop off when we do that. Hi, Shauna. Hi, Bree Bree, Sam Rodriguez, Brooke, what up? What's up, everyone? So yeah, I wanted to still do a live because this topic that we're talking about tonight is what I wanted to talk about 11 days ago when it was first trending, basically. Jason sent me Greg Doucette's video, so we're gonna get all into that. So I hope you guys did see my story post on it. If not, you saw the thumbnail in what we're gonna discuss tonight. Joining from Morocco, Samia. I don't know if I said your name correctly, but how is the weather there? I hope it's beautiful. I feel blessed, and probably why I'm so energetic on a Monday night, because we had sunshine today here in New York. It actually got into the 60s, a little ray of sunshine. I got outside for a little lunch break walk and got some fresh air, some movement. It was so good for my soul. So I'm grateful to have had that bit of sunshine. And I'm grateful that Jason is taking care of the doggos tonight. He's doing their dinner, even though that's normally mom's duty. So thank you to Jason for getting the live set up, taking care of the dogs so that I can chat with all of my wonderful friends on here. So hello, Emily Johnson, New Mexico. You guys live in some amazing places. I love it when you share where you're from as well, especially since Jay and I don't think we want to stay in New York forever. Geneva, welcome. Windy in Arizona. Yeah, it's been so windy and rainy in New York. It has not been friendship. But before we jump on into things, I do want to mention something new. If you happen to be a Buffbunny collection fan, if that's part of why you follow me, I do want to mention I announced on my Insta stories yesterday I did start a Discord. So a little late to that, but I think it's going to be really fun. We've already got a ton of chat going on in there. It's going to be mostly used for Buffbunny collection. So I'm just mentioning that to any of you that do enjoy the Buffbunny collection information, the chats about the clothing, then you can follow me over on Discord. I do have a link for that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I posted it on Instagram. I'll probably leave the link in the description box on this video as well. So yes, all right, thank you for joining me. Let me know if this is a good time for everyone. I'll probably go back to Sunday dietitian lives unless I hear otherwise, but y'all are great for joining me tonight. So tonight's topic, I'll probably do some screen shares and I'll probably reference my phone a bit too, just to kind of look at some of the articles I pulled up just because I wanted to take a look at things. So I don't know if you are familiar with Greg Doucette. Let me know in the comments. He has a huge YouTube channel. Jason's been following him for a long time. He actually blew up. I feel like Jason knows better than me, but he really blew up on YouTube. He posts a lot of different content on there. I won't play his video because I struggle to play videos and have it sound good. we tried it before, it didn't work out. So let me pull up his video just to show you what it looked like. He does tons of videos, lots of informational videos. He does have a bodybuilding background. Let's see, it was 11 days ago now. Come on, Kara, I should have saved the video. You know how when you're like trying to pull up an email and someone's like looking over your shoulder and you can't find the email because everyone's looking at you? That's how I feel right now. I'm like, why can't I find the video? Where the heck is it? All right, well, now I can't find it, but Greg Doucette did a video on this topic, which is kind of what you saw in the thumbnail. Mr. Buy My Cookbook, that's hilarious. I don't know if you guys did catch the video he did on this topic, but this is a recent, Sure, I don't know why I couldn't find it, but I watched it earlier today. It's there. It's just I'm under pressure and then I can't find it. I was just gonna pull it up to show to them. I knew it was just a couple weeks ago, but he posts so many videos. If you guys haven't checked him out, I would say I think you would like his channel. If you guys like my humor and my matter-of-fact personality, you might like him. He's very, very entertaining. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that thumbnail. So he posted it 11 days ago. Great thumbnail, Stop Killing Us, circled. Parents charged with overfeeding their kid to death, not clickbait. So there is his channel, his videos. You guys can check him out. Yeah, so some people maybe, he has an interesting approach. He's very bold in his opinions. So that's why I thought it was kind of interesting to look into this topic a bit, formulate my own opinions, and also I do sometimes like to hear what others' opinions are on some of this stuff. But I will pull up the article here. This is from the Daily Mail from UK. I feel like I've only done a few What the Health true crime stories, if you will, and I feel like they're all out of UK. This is nothing against UK, I just don't quite understand it. I feel like all these stories come from UK. What's up with that? Why is that? So the article, let me know if you'd like me to pull it up. It states, parents appear in court charged with killing their overweight 16-year-old daughter by allowing her to become morbidly obese after she was found dead in her bed. So let me know if you are familiar with this story or not. I can actually pull it up for you. Anytime you see not clickbait, it'll absolutely make you think it is clickbait, right? So I'm gonna get to the article and then I will screen share it with you all. I believe I have it open. Oh no, Jason opened something else up, so now I don't know what he has open. You know what? We don't need to open the article. We don't need to open the article, but that's the main title of the article. You can kind of see her picture here. Looks like she was probably closer to 16 here, and then on the other side, maybe a bit younger. So this just happened recently. She died in her family home. Okay, I guess it wasn't as recently. What's that? Sorry, I shouldn't yell over the mic. Actually, it's not super recent. October 2020, I was thinking this was recent. Probably more recently in the news because of going to court. That is more of a recent situation. It takes a long time. This stuff happens and then it's 2 years later, typically, if people are charged, that they go to court.
What's the article? Where is it?
I had it in my email. I had my email open. I think maybe it got closed somewhere. So I just open my email. So her parents, Alan Titford, come on, is that really his last name, Titford? And Sarah Lloyd Jones have been charged by the CPS. It's claimed they caused her death by allowing her to become morbidly obese. I'm going to screen share that so you all can see. If you're not familiar with this, you should be able to see my screen. Okay. All right, so Parents appear in court. I just mentioned this, charged with their 16-year-old daughter by allowing her to become morbidly obese after she was found dead in her bed. All right, so this occurred, it says October 2020. I guess we're just hearing about it now because they are being charged with gross negligence, manslaughter, and causing or allowing death of a child or vulnerable person. Let's see what else is in this article here. It says it's alleged that the pair, between March 24th and October 11th, 2020, failed to ensure Miss Titford's dietary needs were met, leading to morbid obesity. The charge also states, nor did they ensure she got enough exercise, was in a hygienic condition, had a safe and hygienic environment, her physical health was maintained, or that reasonable medical help was sought. The parents appeared before Welshpool Court today to face the charges. Let's see. Neither entered pleas but spoke to confirm their names. They are going to appear in court again on April 14th. So 3 days from now, we should hear a little more information. An earlier inquest heard spina bifida sufferer Kayla, I don't know if that's how you said her name, suffered multiple medical issues through her life and was immobile. So that's not uncommon with spina bifida. She was pronounced dead by paramedics at 8:12. This is a pretty legit art. You know, you do have to be careful where you get your news from, but you can find this on a bunch of different news sites, websites, things locally that were sharing this story. Yeah, so it said, while the medical cause of death was proposed by Dr. James, may itself be natural, the circumstances precipitating Kaylee's death are under investigation. Is it Kaylee or Kay? I don't know. They spelled her name wrong in 2 different spots, so maybe it is a little suspect there. Interesting, a medical cause of death was given as inflammation and infection. Inflammation and infection in extensive areas of ulceration arising from obesity and its complications in a girl with spina bifida and hydrocephalus. It says, as such, these investigations give me reason to suspect that Kaylee's death may be unnatural and that a natural cause of death may be considered unnatural where there is some culpable human involvement or contribution to that death. So, okay, let's kind of break this down a little bit. Elizabeth mentioned, is this article legit? Daily Mail is like a tabloid. For UK, I believe so, but if you do search this story, you can find more information about it. Not a ton, but there's legit court dates and things like that going on, so I do believe it is valid that that the parents are potentially being charged. Let's just say they're not. Maybe this is all made up. I still think it lends itself to a very interesting conversation to have, some of which Greg went into in his discussion on his video, which is how responsible are the parents? So I'm not going to sit here and claim to know whether this child died from complications of obesity or whether it's something else. That's not something that I can determine, but I do think it's interesting to have the conversation about what role do parents play in preventing their kids from having these types of medical conditions. Obesity, spina bifida, of course, is more genetic. That's not necessarily something that can be controlled. I mean, there are things you can do prenatally to lower the risk, of course, but no one's placing blame there. This child was obviously already born with some medical issues, right? The levels of spina bifida, I'm not an expert on it, but they do vary. So some are not as immobilized by it, and others are very immobile. So it sounds like she was more of a mobile girl. So curious your thoughts. Would love to hear some discussion in the chat on what you think about this topic. Do you think parents have a responsibility when it comes to preventing obesity in their children? And to what degree should they be held accountable? So in Greg's video, he was kind of taking it to the extreme, saying, like, it should be illegal. These people should be held accountable. I don't really know at what level, like, how that could be done or implemented. But it's an interesting conversation to have, because I do personally feel like as parents, you do have a responsibility for your child's health and well-being and what they're eating, and helping to regulate it, or if there's any health issues there, in particular with spina bifida, knowing she was a bit more immobile potentially, not being able to exercise possibly. I mean, all I'm going by is the, picture of her in a wheelchair stating that she was pretty immobile. You would know that she would have challenges in terms of being able to move around and kind of live a normal, healthy life, making it all that more important what she's putting into her body. Just keeping an eye on Joey Justice down here getting into a little bit of mischief. So, what do you think? Do you have any opinions on this? Shauna says that's sad. That is super sad. Right, true. This occurred during the pandemic, so everything would have been pushed out much longer in terms of going to court, having hearings, things like that. A lot of it was virtual for a long time. So I don't want to give too much of my opinion because I want to hear what you guys think. So give me some feedback in the chat, how you feel, if you have your own personal experience, if you had siblings growing up who were obese, if you're a parent now and have children, how do you view this topic? I do think it's a topic that is sensitive. We know that there's the body positive movement we've talked about. I don't think this is like the body positive movement in this example, though. This is a question if the parents were doing their due diligence as parents who basically have say over their children as to what they can and cannot do. You are not legally an adult yet. To what degree did they provide the level of care that this girl needed? It could very well be that her death was maybe completely unrelated to the complications of her being morbidly obese or obese. I don't remember what term they used, but let's, for sake of argument here, make sure we all agree on the fact that we know obesity is often defined based on BMI, body mass index. We can all agree BMI is not a great measure, right? It doesn't tell the full story. However, we can still get an idea using it as a reference to indicate if someone's obese or not. I think we could all agree, looking at the photo, this gal was likely confirmed obese, right? I know some people don't like using that word. It's such a weird frickin' time. I feel like everything's so sensitive. But yes, she was obese. She did not look like she was in good health. So to what degree did these parents do what they needed to? Were they stepping up? Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Brooke states, as someone who was obese as a child, my parents definitely watched out for my health. They never made me feel bad about it, but they made me aware that they cared and were concerned. So that sounds like that wasn't a negative thing for you, Brooke. I'm sure that can be a fine line as a child where it doesn't feel good to know that maybe you look different or you feel different or you're treated differently. You know, we're very sensitive as kids. We're also pretty resilient too, but it can be tough, like standing out in that way and being treated differently. There's a lot of stuff that we could unpack there, right? Nina says she thinks parents are responsible, as does Clarissa. Crystal says a good question to ask is if obesity is a preventative medical condition and to what degree. Yeah, I think that seems to be something that has become more debatable, if you will. I do feel personally that there certainly is some genetics that plays into body composition, potentially how prone we are, how more prone one person is to becoming obese than another. To Greg's point, I definitely agreed with him. You know, none of us are born obese. You know, there is the growth chart when we're babies. You go to the pediatrician, you kind of get a feel for your height, how you're doing on the height index, and in terms of weight, what percentiles you fall in. Are you on the smaller end? You need to grow more and gain more. Are you on the larger end? But for the most part, you know, as children, you don't just come out obese. You don't just out of nowhere become obese. And that's not to dismiss the fact that there can't be medical diagnoses and things like that definitely impact that, right? I'm not arguing that, but I do feel like there is a lot with obesity that is preventable. I think sometimes we don't want to take onus for that in a way. I could get slack for that, but that is truly how I feel. So I do agree with Danielle Jones. You have to be sensitive how you deal with weight issues with children. I try to offer vegetables and don't fry foods. I try to not label foods good or bad. Yeah, so there's definitely things parents can do if you're dealing with one of your children that is obese, or you're noticing some unhealthy habits. There's things that can be done there to help encourage healthier behaviors. I think one of the biggest things I've seen is not singling anyone out. If you're a family of 5 or how many ever, and you have one child that you think they need to lose weight or you're worried about their weight, then what you're trying to instill in your child, you should be doing as a group, as a family. So offering the whole family foods that aren't fried, offering the whole family vegetables, not eating out as much, going outside with the whole family and getting an activity, right? So doing things together versus singling anyone out. So that's definitely a whole conversation there for how that topic is approached, for sure. Elizabeth Smith says, as an RN, I have to say that if her medical conditions were severe, obesity was probably the least of the issues. So that's a really interesting point too, Elizabeth. I was trying to pull up, and I did have some more articles I was pulling up on spina bifida and just the prevalence of obesity, also spina bifida and lifespan, all right? So if you're not super familiar with it, lifespan is often significantly shortened by this condition. So I'm sure being obese and whatever else she had going on compiled it. If you're immobile and you're sitting a lot, you know, you have to be very cognizant of moving someone, getting them moved so they're not creating bed sores or pressure ulcers, ulcerations. Hey, Bruce Wayne, you want to come on in? Things like that. So if she had ulcers, and I think it did say she had an infection, those could have gotten infected. Depending on the level of infection, that could go septic. There's so many other things that certainly could have occurred there with her medical issues that could have been the reason why she died at such a young age. I do believe what I read, 16 is quite younger than the average. I think it said, you know, most people survive over 3 decades, which even still I'm like, holy crap, I'm over that right now. So to think of your life being ended that short, but her life was ended very short at the young age of 16. So I'm sure there's a lot that played into her medical issues. But how do you guys feel? Let's say we take spina bifida out of this equation. How do you feel about the fact that she was so morbidly obese at the age of 16? Do we feel like the parents had a role and responsibility in her getting there? Justice, sip. Justice, sip. You can be in here, but you can't be sniffing around, dude. Jackie Hampton says, as a woman that was always over the BMI, which is another subject, my mom always made sure I stayed active. Genetics in her family, most everyone's overweight, but staying active was always a priority. This is different because she looks like she could not start active. Yeah, so she definitely didn't get handed an easy life where you can just work out, move more, do all the things. She didn't have those options. So to me, her ability to become obese regardless of the parents' influence, it was already greater. It was already greater if she was not able to be mobile, for sure. Sam Rodriguez says, as a father of 3 girls and someone who trains 5 days a week, I'm trying extra hard to reach my girls about body positivity. It's our responsibility to have our kids eat healthy. I agree with that. Bree, leading by example has a big impact, which is why your own healthy habits are important too. Absolutely. You know, I used to see that oftentimes with kids who'd get referred to me because their parents wanted them to get healthy and lose weight. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the video I posted a couple years ago, my experience working at a weight loss camp for kids, and it was heartbreaking. Quite honestly, I don't even like that I was part of that whole project and mission, because it was, I think, very restrictive, and we could even do a whole separate live on that, but the majority of those kids did not want to be there. They didn't want to be there. I just think it's really important that you definitely talk to your kids. Like, you've got some great parents in the chat right here trying to lead by example, and I think that's the best way you can do it. So Clarissa says, you can't necessarily control what they eat, but I offer fruits and vegetables at every meal. It took about 15 times before seeing my son eat broccoli, but he eventually did. And that is what the research shows, actually, is that it takes, now I can't remember the exact number, but it's like, it takes 7 to 10 times as a young kid to be exposed to something. You're going to keep saying, ugh, yuck, I don't want it, gross. No, as a kid, you're not like into things, right? You're a kid, you're picky. Most kids are picky. So it takes tons and tons of exposure. But yeah, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th time, they're gonna probably eat the broccoli, right? But that is probably a stressful thing as a parent, to continue to offer the healthy things. Do we think that was being done in the case of Kaylee? I don't know. I wish I could see the parents. I gotta snoop around a bit more so maybe I could judge them or get a good read on them. I like to think I can read people sometimes, but it makes you wonder, do you think they were being cognizant of the fact? And did they have a responsibility to be more cognizant of the fact that they had a child with a medical condition who was gonna have a harder time being at a healthy weight and being healthy? Did they go the extra step to provide her with an environment that was as healthy as it possibly could be for her? Nina says, if we're ignoring any other condition, 16 is a little tricky since they should have some concept of nutrition. That's true, but since the parents are likely the ones providing food, they still don't have control. Yeah, I mean, you have a level, there's a level of access when you're a kid, when you're a teen. I don't even know if this girl was capable of making her own meals. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, based on like looking at the few articles I looked at. She was probably being given food. I don't think she was in the kitchen prepping it herself. I could be wrong, I'm not always right. I'm making some assumptions here just for sake of conversation. I don't think she was. I think she was probably being provided everything from her parents. It wasn't like this girl was going out to friends' houses, stuff like that. So yeah, at 16, you know, I think back as a kid, I ate what I had access to in the house. I ate school lunch. And when I went to my friends' houses, sometimes they had some cool snacks, you know, some cool snack drawers that I didn't have in my own house. And I would indulge on, you know, 2 or 3 Little Debbie snacks, all right? Because I didn't have that kind of stuff in my house. Sometimes I did, but not always. My mom would have said something if I ate 3 packages of Nutty Buddies, you know? So sometimes if you're too restrictive in the household, the kids will go overboard when they're in other places, right? And that can be true whether it's food or any kind of rules. I don't envy you parents. It's a tough role. I'm not one of them, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert over here. But in terms of the nutrition piece, I think there was a responsibility there that I'm not sure that they really took seriously. But I don't know, if we're all still not in agreement that obesity can kill someone, maybe that's part of the confusion too. Why would there be buy-in if someone doesn't think obesity can kill someone? So that's part of the conflict here in the world right now. Joey Justice. Nina says, I feel very sad when I see kids under 12 very obese because it's entirely their parents' fault. I mean, you got to think a majority of it is, right? These kids at this age, they're not driving, they're not, I mean, your access majority comes from the household. Maybe what you're provided at school. I'm just petting Joey Justice in case you're wondering what's going on over here. I do feel like there is a bulk of responsibility on the parents. Crystal brings up a good point. If a child's diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, the parents are responsible for the education necessary to manage the condition. Yes. If that's the case, what would be any different with obesity? Yeah, so I mean, if you saw that your child was struggling, ask for help. Maybe bring them to a doctor. Maybe try to set up an appointment with a dietitian. I understand it's a sensitive thing. You know, I work with people now that were scarred because they were forced to go to the doctor and weigh in as a kid, or who went to a dietitian who handled things really inappropriately. So I agree, it's not like a quick thing to jump into. These things as kids shape us into who we are as adults. There's things that have traumatized us all from childhood that maybe have stuck with us and caused us to have some of the behaviors that we have now, right? Whether they be healthy or unhealthy. So it is a very fine line, but I do think, you know, I would want to think if that was me, I would want to do my due diligence to try to help my kid and know that that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem healthy, regardless of medical conditions. You know, not regardless, especially because of medical conditions. You know, I think about Jason and what we've learned about his health. And although it sucked to find out, like, he has diagnoses, it gave us answers. It gave us information. And Jason changed his entire life. Even though to everyone on the outside, well, you look like a healthy guy. It doesn't work like that. So even those that look healthy on the outside, he changed his whole life knowing what he knew about his medical conditions, changed the way he ate. He doesn't love eating the way he eats. He hates it some days, most days. You know, he doesn't like having to really manage his energy on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis, but these are the things he's been dealt with. And so you can just say the heck with it, this is the hand I was dealt, or you can go the extra mile to try to really make sure you're doing everything you can in your power to be as healthy as possible, knowing you have other conditions. So I guess it comes down to perspective. When you're 16, how much perspective do you have? You don't. You're still developing it. Your brain doesn't have the ability to even really think long term and understand consequences. So 16, you want to give me candy bars for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm saying, fuck yeah. You know, like, you don't care. You're not thinking like, oh, this might not be healthy for me and blah, blah, blah. So that's where it really can require those parents to step in with perspective, with guidelines, with this is what we all got to do, and this is why. Grumpy Berry was lucky. I ate horribly, but I had a crazy fast metabolism as a child. Yeah, and there's that too, you know, as kids and adolescents, like, we're growing at such a rapid pace. You know, you hear about it as we get older, like, oh, I used to be able to eat like that in my 20s and that kind of stuff, because things maybe change. The science is questionable now whether or not metabolism really slows as we age, or if it's the things that we do that cause our bodies to change. So that's also another interesting topic. Jackie Hampton, kind of like taking care of her medically. Would they not take her to the doctor? Yeah. Clarissa, I think people think they can rely too heavily on modern medicine and technology to heal them. So much could be solved if people just ate a bit better and exercised. Yeah, I really feel like the shift is there a little bit with more integrative techniques. I think people are buying into that a bit more with healing themselves, you know. And it's not to say that some of us don't need medication, but trying those other techniques first. You know, even for me, I'm doing acupuncture right now, which is a form of Chinese medicine that's been around for a very long time, that's used to treat a number of different medical conditions, but insurance isn't going to cover it. They ain't going to pay for it. They're not going to reimburse me. You know, that's something that I thankfully am financially able to afford to help see if this helps heal me. Oh, this is a great one. Tracy Coral, my journey to health. We could not leave the table until we finished our plate. Hence now I am overweight and have been all my life in a bad relationship with food. The finish your plate. Yes, this is something we talked about a lot in college. And I remember when they brought this up in college, you know, I didn't go to college being a nutrition expert. Like, I came from a normal middle-class household. We ate fast food a lot, had your staple meals that my mom and dad cooked, and we had to finish the plate. If I wanted to have dessert, I had to finish the plate. And I was a picky eater. As a kid, I didn't like food. I don't wish I was still like that, but like, food didn't interest me as a kid. I just couldn't bother unless it was Cool Whip, maple syrup, toast, like, you know, random kid things that were tasty to me then. So yeah, you had to finish your plate to get the treat, to get the dessert. And so that can be really harmful. That can really backfire in terms of that finish your plate mindset. That can shape you for the rest of your life. It can be hard to get out of that. It's so true, Joey. There's no money in healthy people. That's why we as a society, at least speaking for those of us in the United States, we are not preventative. We do not encourage preventative because that's how insurance makes their money. That's how big pharma makes their money. Like, they don't want us to be preventative. They don't want us to be... I hate to sound like such a skeptic, but it really, the more you dive into this stuff, it's kind of like, ooh, you kind of like hate the system in a way. It does kind of make you want to step back and try to self-heal on your own if you can. But I agree, just exercise and eating healthy, yeah, there's no money in that. Hence why dietitians even now, I feel like, are coming up with elaborate themes and ways to gain clients that are much different to stand out and be a bit more sexy advertising. Same with any of the fad diets, right? If it's sexy, if it appeals. Yeah, so I think in a way it was almost a good thing that my parents would like force me to eat more, because I was literally just kind of like, meh, I don't want to try it. So they were encouraging me to eat more. I don't think they were ever like really hard, like you have to finish your plate or else you can't leave the dinner table kind of thing. At least that never stuck with me if that was the scenario, but I do remember they'd encourage me to eat different foods and stuff like that. So definitely a fine line. But very interesting topic. I definitely will, let's see, that article, if it is in fact legit, does state that the parents are going to be in court this week. So on April 14th. So that was the Daily Mail, but I did have another article too that wasn't the Daily Mail. Did I send it to myself? Of course I didn't. But there were other articles that published this story. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. We'll do a little update if y'all want, but kind of getting an impression that many of you do feel like there is a responsibility on the parents. I'm not here to place blame in this particular incident. It sounds like this girl had a lot going on. Why do the dogs always literally sit like right, my legs are spread eagle right now. Why do they always sit right underneath me? But it sounds like as a whole, we do feel like the parents have a responsibility and maybe played in some way a responsibility in this girl's life. And it ending so early. It's hard to know. In terms of Greg's approach, do we think if a parent's children are obese, should they be held accountable? Should it be illegal? I want to say those were Greg's words. Should it be illegal? Let me know your thoughts. So let's not even step aside from this case. What do you think about that as a parent being held responsible for children, let's say under the age of 16, they go to the doctor, they're morbidly obese, something has to be done. What are your thoughts on that? I have opinions, but I'm not a parent, but so I feel like that's an interesting scenario. And what would the ramification be if it's illegal and your child was found to be obese? Are you fined? Like, do you have to go back at a certain point in time and now get your morbidly obese kid to lose weight? Like, I don't know how that would work logistically. It's an interesting concept. I know there was a while ago they were talking about doing, what was the name of the tax? They were going to add a tax to, I think it was like part of the obesity movement. I don't know if it was called the obesity tax, but like sugared sodas, you were going to have to pay, like if you wanted to go get a Coca-Cola, you were going to have to pay an extra like tax on that for like not making a healthy choice. Curious your thoughts on that. Like, what do we do about it? I guess this will depend on what your thoughts are on obesity. As I mentioned earlier, some people don't really feel like obesity is controllable. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think it is controllable to an extent, and I do still feel like it is individual. Like, it's individual. There are situations where other things do kind of unfortunately take priority where it's not as controlled. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I could see where maybe that it does seem a bit extreme, like if it is child endangerment. I mean, okay, I like Clarissa's idea. Maybe the parents have to take a nutrition education class and support group. That's the other thing I kind of wanted to like throw into this talk real quick just to get you thinking about it. That's one of the things that bothers me is I just feel like there isn't enough health education. There isn't enough nutrition education. There isn't enough built into the school systems. I'm speaking again for United States because I know some of you are from Morocco and fun places like that, but at least for US, some schools don't even have gym or physical activity built into the school day for kids. So you've got kids who maybe aren't even learning about physical activity. You've got no nutrition education occurring. Really, I think about what I learned going through high school. I only learned a little bit about nutrition because I opted to take a home economics class in high school because I was starting to get really interested in nutrition and being very like health focused. So I learned a little bit about nutrition basics there, not really much though. I went my whole schooling, I feel like, not really learning much. So we don't really do anything with our children growing up these days to understand the importance of physical activity and nutrition and good nutrition and what that even means. So the onus then becomes solely on the parents and whatever environment that this child is in, what their surroundings are, who they're surrounded with, to understand if that is a priority and how that looks. If we're not instilling that into kids at a young age, that's a topic for me that annoys me, that I feel like we don't do enough in that department. We do not do enough. Why are you sniffing around everywhere, Justice? Come here. Come here. So Nina said, when I started trying to manage my weight as an adult, I really thought no one taught me how to eat. And that's probably accurate because I honestly didn't really feel like I learned how to eat until I went to college to be a registered dietitian. Like, there was so much I didn't know when I went to school to become a dietitian, a food expert, a nutrition expert, if you will. And so would I would I have the habits that I have now if I didn't go and pursue this degree? I don't know. So some of you are suggesting like maybe that would be the repercussion, would be like going to a dietitian, some nutrition counseling. Yeah, like we don't teach kids how to cook. Again, I had learned a little bit with cooking because I took that home economics class in high school. And actually Jason and I were dating, and I remember, you know, I learned how to sew, and I learned how to like bake a pie and make chicken Alfredo. I mean, those aren't healthy things, but I was learning some basic skills as a young lady on how to cook and things like that that I thought were really helpful. It wasn't required. It was, it was an extra course you could take if you could fit it in your schedule. So I'm sure there's many that don't get that kind of information. What's really cool too, I'll mention about the hospital that I work in. I work in a state psychiatric hospital, so it's not long-term care, it's acute hospitalizations, but I am a dietitian, but I don't work there as a dietitian anymore. However, the dietitians there, what they do and what I would do is there's nutrition groups in all the units. So whether they're there for 2 weeks or not, whether they're a young kid, an adolescent, or a geriatric, they do nutrition programming and nutrition groups to help teach people about basic nutrition and just even making some small, simple changes. One of the most common examples I always give is sometimes I would just be trying to get someone who would drink a gallon whole milk a day to switching it to maybe not even 1% or skim, maybe 2%. Maybe I would just get them to kind of switch something over, or get them to switch from soda to water. That's a really far jump with the clients I worked with, but just some small changes like that could go so long and so far, I should say. But you could tell, like, a lot of these people don't have exposure to nutrition education. Even doctors, even nurses, oftentimes, while they'll have a science background, the only education they have in nutrition is basic nutrition. Yeah, home ec definitely was a little floofy when it came to the nutrition stuff. It was kind of like, at the time, I'm aging myself, but the food guide pyramid, the triangle, she was still a thing. We talked about that, and talked about like basic, very basic level nutrition. I don't think it was anything that really taught you how to eat, but it at least got you familiarized with some concepts. So what's up, Lexi? I just saw you joined. Joey Justice is cuddled up to my foot. So a lot of interesting topics to kind of like stem off of this. Justice, simmer. Calm your tits. You guys know I always show you my situation. There's always a bit of a glare, but that's my foot and my dog. So yeah, I wanted to have this talk. Greg Doucette, actually, I think, well, I honestly often agree with him. So maybe I don't approach things the same as him. I'm maybe not as bold and in your face, but oftentimes when I watch his videos, I'm like, yeah, I agree with him. And I like how he kind of dissects things. He goes through everything, and I think he does a really good job at like dissecting the facts that he has on hand and making it entertaining. Obviously, it's opinion-based, it's entertainment-based, so sometimes people get way too serious on the internet, but I do actually really enjoy his content, and oftentimes when he is speaking about nutrition-based topics, I do appreciate and agree with his opinions. And he even mentioned in his video, going to see a dietitian. So I always respect people as well when they throw us out there and mention that, we are a resource to be utilized. We should be utilized. Justice, chill. Yes, he's a bit more aggressive than I am in my approach. I would agree with that, Shauna. My necklace, all my jewelry off topic, yes, is always from Uncommon James. Not sponsored. It's just the one jewelry store I found that I really like, where the price is not crazy and it lasts long. So I guess we will wrap things up here. If you guys haven't watched Greg's video, you should check it out. It's definitely going to be like a whole different level than my personality, but I do think you might appreciate some of his comments on how this situation went and what parents' responsibility is. So he feels very strongly, you know, obesity is preventable, it's not genetic, it's calories in, calories out, and that parents should be held responsible. So for the most part, I do agree with a lot of what he says. I thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about, shed some light on, especially for any parents. Justice, what are you doing? All right, the doggo is getting a little cray-cray, so we're going to call it a night. I hope you all enjoyed this chat tonight. If you did, before you head on out of here, be sure to hit the like button. That does help things out in the algorithm if other people want to watch it. Share it on your social media if you want. If you enjoyed it, that always helps out the channel as well. And always feel free to leave a comment or send me a DM on Instagram to let me know any other topics you want covered. This kind of goes along with the what the health realm, any other random horror stories or things you hear about, even if it's someone you personally know who's on a crazy diet, share it with me. Let's talk all the tea on the Dietitian Lives. I really enjoy these and I love interacting with you all. It's great that we can all have opinions, and I want this to be a space where we can even have different opinions, right? What would the world be if we all thought the same exact thing? It would be super duper boring. So I appreciate that we can all come here, respect each other's opinions, kind of talk through things, and just become more aware. So I hope you all enjoyed hanging out with me tonight, and we'll see you in the next one. I do have a vlog that will be going up on the channel this week, so if you are into the Kara Corey vlogs, stay tuned for that. Kara Corey and Joey Justice,